Hi everyone, my name is Mona. I'm the founder at Upraised. We are a career accelerator for product managers. We help people make transitions and break into product management. Today we have someone very special, Gokul. He's an ex-entrepreneur and now going to start as a product manager at Gojek. Gokul, you want to start by just telling us a little bit about yourself, your background, and how did you get into product management?
So, like Mona said, I'm Gokul. I am still currently a founder, and I'm the CEO of this company called Crisp, which is a media technology company which straddles the B2B and the B2C space. On the B2C end, we help publishers. On the B2C end, we help consumers get their daily news in a minute, and on the B2B end, we help publishers sort of drive more engagement on their websites and mobile apps. I've never had a job in my life, and becoming a PM at Gojek, which I'm starting next week, is going to be my first job. I started my journey as an entrepreneur at Pilates Hyderabad campus, and I've been in this role for about 6 years now. The first product that I built was called Likewise, which was an interest-based social network. It didn't work out for a bunch of reasons, but we did a couple of things right. One was that we raised money, which sort of helped us experiment with things. The second was that we built a very interesting set of technologies that we took, and when Likewise didn't work, we took those technologies and built this product called 10 Reads. 10 Reads basically surfaced the 10 most important stories that you're supposed to read for today in terms of news. So that was what the product did. And as we started working on it, we realized that the problem of news consumption was even more nuanced, even more intense than we thought it was. And so we said, okay, let's solve a few problems there. And we solved them, and we rebranded as Crisp. And that's what I've been up to for the past 5-6 years of my life. And as far as my career itself is concerned, I wanted the first 5 years to be about building neat products. And with Crisp, I feel like I've sufficiently accomplished that. And I wanted the next 5 years of my life to be about creating impact at scale, which is where companies like Gojek sort of fit into the theme. And to say that I'm an exceptional product manager, or someone really good at interviewing would be a straight out lie, because I screwed up a lot when it came to PMing interviews. And I basically flunked like 4 or 5 really good interviews. And then I said, okay, I'm going to throw myself at this, and arrived at a set of frameworks and stuff like that that basically helped me land a role at Gojek, which in itself seems to be pretty coveted when I talk to people about it, right? So
Absolutely.
if I can do it, anyone can do it. That's basically my
No, I definitely believe that no matter what your background is, anytime you go to an interview, there is a little bit of prep work you have to do, and I think people underestimate that because they feel like either their background or their previous role was sufficient to kind of get them through. But every environment
I
requires
did that. I used to do that. You're absolutely right. I used to do that, and then I said, even a basic tell me about yourself, right? That requires a sort of a 2-minute pitch that you need to have ready. I found that people don't typically have that.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, and honestly, this is the objective of this conversation is twofold. One is, like I said, product metrics are a very difficult part of the interview process for most product managers because of the lack of a very widely used framework like product design. There's circles or heart or whatever that might be, right? But for product metrics, it's generally a little bit fuzzy. So people start in a random. People start in not a structured way, and then they end up in a they just kind of keep digging a hole deeper and deeper, and it's very hard to kind of get out of it. So that's one objective, is to how do you actually approach product metric questions, and what is the most effective yet structured way of doing that. And secondly, I just want to kind of emphasize, and I'd love for I wanted to take this moment to emphasize how much effort Gokul has actually put into the preparation for getting interview ready. And the reason I say that is someone who's been an entrepreneur himself, someone who's done product for so long, even despite that, sometimes it just takes a little bit of effort and prep to recondition your mind so that you can actually get into the zone of interviewing, because it's not the same as just going to a business meeting and talking about yourself. And so I think it's important to acknowledge that prep is for everybody, no matter how smart or how good you are or whatever you've done in your past. So yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so I think you're absolutely right in the sense that twofold. In terms of product metrics, there isn't a very good framework that people can follow, or like take something like circles, like you mentioned. So it becomes like super important to sort of give yourself some structure, because the number one mistake that you can do in a product interview is not having a structure. Basically, product managers are supposed to be excellent communicators above everything else, and if you don't have a structure and you start off, rambling about metrics without having a clear, framework in your mind, it comes off as a serious red flag for interviewers. And this is particularly pertinent for data obsessed companies, which are like growing by the day, with even companies like Gojek, where in fact data is the first round. Like if you go on site, that is the first round. Typically it's like design or something else. For Gojek, data is so important that they put it as the first round, and that becomes an elimination round in itself. And in terms of your practice point, I realized the value of that after I flunked a few interviews. So in the weeks leading up to Gojek's on-site, I basically did around 50 mock interviews, 50. And
Wow.
I used a bunch of tools to get these mock interviews done. But the 50 was the number, and I think anyone, like you said, needs to practice before they can get interviewed in, right?
Fantastic. So this leads me to, I think we're ready to kind of get started and just kind of take a stab at a random metric question and see how Gokul approaches it using his framework. Whenever needed, Gokul, you can kind of take the moment to pause and, highlight anything you want to highlight. But otherwise, we can just go through the question and hopefully it'll be fairly clear to people watching this video on how they should approach product metric questions. So the question we have today is, you're the head of product at Instagram. What are the top metrics you track?
The framework that I essentially use when it comes to product metrics question is like deceptively simple, in a sense that first I try and define what the product does. Because when we are answering a product metric question, unless we know what exactly the product does, we tend to lose out on a set of things that could be potentially important, right? And the second one that I like doing is, okay, you're a product person at this company. What are your top objectives? Like, is it to drive acquisition, or is it like to drive activation, or is it engagement, or something else? So what are your primary objectives, so to speak? And the third one is, I like mapping out the user journey to make sure that I'm not leaving out any important aspect of the user's experience in the product, right? And then the fourth one is, once you have this user journey, you have, if you have done any kind of data work before, you know that you can assign a metric to anything and everything. So there will basically be a laundry list of events or metrics that you can sort of track. And but you as a product person are supposed to prioritize which is important and which is not important. So that is my fifth and final step, which is basically, what are the top metrics that sort of matter for this? So there is a school of thought which says one metric that matters. I actually don't subscribe to that, because the kind of metrics that you need to track will always be a constellation of metrics. But I don't think you should have like more than 5 or 6 metrics that you track at any given time for any kind of product. So that's basically the way I'd approach it. If you'll just give me a moment to organize my thoughts around the Instagram question, I'll get back to you on
Sure.
how I follow this particular framework. Yeah.
Sure.
So from a product standpoint, Instagram is basically a social network that is centered around photos and videos. People come on Instagram to kind of follow people, post photos or videos, or as permanent posts or as stories. You have Instagram Direct, which is something where people go and privately message their friends or other people. And Instagram is a pretty big product. I think they have over 1 billion users, and they already monetize via advertisements. And Instagram is also present on web and mobile. And for the purposes of this exercise, I'm just going to assume that we are focused on the consumer facing product, and that we are primarily focused on the mobile app. Is that okay?
Yeah, sure.
So as a head of product at Instagram, my primary objectives would probably be around driving engagement, retention, and increasing revenue. Acquisition and activation are less likely to be important at this stage, because like I said, Instagram has 1 billion users. So those are likely to be solved problems and less of a priority at this point, right? Is that okay?
Yeah, sure. You can focus on that part of the funnel.
Yeah, sure. Great. Given that we are sort of letting acquisition and activation sort of take a backseat, if you look at the user journey of of a person who's using Instagram, this is what it looks like, right? So, the person can open the app, and then he can consume or create. When you're creating stuff, you can create a permanent post, in which case you'll be adding those filters, you'll be adding a caption, you'll be cross posting to other platforms, you'll be using one of those filters and stuff like that. So or if you're creating a story, for instance, you'll add stickers, you'll add text on top of the image, and it depends on who you share it to. Do you share it to just close friends, or do you share it to a wider audience? So these are some of the creation stuff that you can do. But Instagram is more widely used for consumption, so to speak. And you can consume by, say, looking at your feed, which is what I would assume is the most common action that people take. You can look at your feed, you can like a photo, you can comment on a photo, you can send that photo to someone privately via your direct messages, or you can save a photo, a collection, private collection, or you can search for stuff, you can search for people, you can search for hashtags, and you can look at your notifications, you can go to other people's profiles, follow them, unfollow them. So these are the set of actions that you can take from a user consumption standpoint. And then you have the other part of the product that people interact with, which is ads themselves. People look at ads, people click on them or report these ads, skip them, and stuff like that. So these are, in my mind, the essential components of the user journey itself. You have the creation, then you have consumption, and then you have ads, right? So do you think I'm missing anything important in this particular thing? I've let me try and write it down so that I don't forget later on.
Yeah, sure. Have you thought about e-commerce via Instagram?
E-commerce. Yeah. So I think that. So you're talking about people selling stuff on Instagram, or people pushing ads via Instagram? Is it like a D2C brand pushing an ad via Instagram?
So definitely ads is one part of it, but the e-commerce part that I'm referring to is how you go on the Explore tab and there's a tab for shop, which is just a bunch of products where
right.
Buy them.
Right. That's a good point, but I have not used it enough. Can you tell me more about how it works, if you want me to focus on that?
Yeah, I'll tell you. I'll tell you a little bit about how it works, but and we can talk about a little bit on the audience that it attracts, and then we can think about whether that's a priority to focus on or not.
Sure.
But basically, the way it works is it's a very popular category for fashion and clothing. As well as fashion, including accessories and jewelry and stuff like that, because a lot of people, for all these category, visualization is important, and for all these categories, when you see certain people wear it, or when you see your friends wear it, or whatever, the first curiosity you always have is, where do I buy this from, right? And so instead of Instagram just linking, so what Instagram is doing is actually it's letting users tag, users and certain
Ah,
influencers tag their products that they're wearing to a link
right, right,
to
right,
buy,
right.
and it's like an sort of an affiliate marketing model. For
Right, 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 right. This is how that the handbag things and all that keep
exactly,
popping up.
yeah, exactly.
Right, right. Like okay,
But
okay.
I,
I hadn't thought
but I
about
think it's if I look at the earnings report in of all the money that Instagram made, of all the revenue, I think it's less than 10% right now. Majority is driven by ads. So would you think that's something we should prioritize, or?
I don't think so because when I look at metrics, typically I like looking at top level actions. So there is a play. So let's say you have something like Instagram is probably widely used on iOS over and above say Android. I'm just giving you a very vague example. So in a product interview question, when they ask you about product metrics, I don't think you should dive too deep, in terms of like dissecting the kind of like actions that people take. So because you could like get lost, you could get lost in a web of metrics, and then you will never be able to come back. So I and I'm also more interested at this point in engagement and retention rather than monetization. Something that you what you mentioned is actually a monetization thing, and the question was phrased as you're the head of product, and as a head of product, it's very unlikely that I'll be focused on one component of my entire monetization thing. I'm likely to look at the bigger picture. This is how I see it. What do you think? Hmm.
Yeah, that's a fair way of looking at it. I think I would keep this something. This is something I would have it at the back of my mind if
Got
it
it.
starts to impact the other 90%.
Got it.
But if it doesn't, then I think we can leave it out.
Got it, got it, got it. And one thing you mentioned, I missed the Instagram shop. I seem to have missed the IGTV also, which is their new
That's right.
initiative around the vertical videos. Like people can go and consume vertical videos. So basically, look at these kinds of actions. You will be able to map these things to specific events, right? And that they form the basis for your metrics, and any product person is going to track these metrics over some kind of time unit. Like it can be an hour, it can be a day, it can be a week. I found that it's very useful to define this time unit, number one, because it gives the interviewer a sense of, okay, does this guy look at a time series data or not? And in Instagram's case, I think it makes sense to have the time unit as per day, because it's a daily use product and a social product. Something like a productivity tool can be a per week. Something like a finance planner can be a month or a year or whatever. So it really depends upon the product. For Instagram, I think it makes sense to have it as a per day basis. And the second thing that I think most people do not do and can become like incredibly useful is over the course of any metrics question, they'll talk about an active user, but nobody clearly defines what an active user is. So in your mind, it could be that someone is opening an app, or it could be someone completing a core action and then they become an active user, right? So I define an active user for Instagram as someone who's opened the app and stayed on the app for greater than 3 seconds. Because it means that you've seen at least one photo and derived some value from the product. You need not create, you can just be on the app for like 3 seconds. So with those two sort of definitions out of the way, I like to take a couple of metrics to basically jot down what are the metrics that would become relevant here. Is that okay? So this is going to become a laundry list of metrics, like I mentioned, and then we will prioritize based on this list. Okay.
Sure.
So I'm dividing my metrics into four. One is what I call top level metrics. I call the second one user level metrics. The third one is something that I'm calling post level metrics. And the fourth one, explore metrics. And okay, there is actually a fifth one that I want to add, which is basically ads metrics. Because even though monetization ranks low in my priority right now, I still need to like sort of keep an eye on it, right? When it comes to top level metrics, I am probably going to be focused on daily active users, which is basically a number of people who open the app and stay for 3 seconds or longer every day, unique people. The second one I'm going to be focused on is weekly active users. The third one is DAU to WAU ratio, which basically gives me a measure of the stickiness of the product. And the fourth one I'm going to be focused on is time spent per user per day. This is also a stickiness metric, right? And at a user level, I'm going to be focused on the number of sessions per user per day. This is very important for something like Instagram, because people keep opening their Instagram or WhatsApp apps every few hours, right? So this is an important metric. Another one that I'll be focused on is number of likes and comments. I'll call these interactions. Number of interactions per user per day. It tells me whether the kind of content the person is seeing is relevant or not. And then I'll be focused on the number of photos posted per user per week. I changed a little bit here and said per week, because posting a photo is not something that most people do on a daily basis. So it probably makes sense to track that on a weekly basis rather than a daily basis, right? And the number of stories a person posts per week, right? And but the counter thing to this is you need to track the number of stories a person views per day. So you keep viewing stories, but you keep posting stories slightly at a slightly lesser frequency, right?
Right.
And yeah, and two other health metrics in this that I can think of: average number of followers per user and average number of users this person user is following. These are sort of the user level metrics that I can think of. And at a post level, I can look at the number of photos that people post per post. You can add multiple photos to this thing, so that could tell me something about, are people trying to share more, or like is it a solitary post every time. So this is an important metric. And I need to know what is the number of interactions per post on averages. That's really the crux of my engagement lever. So interactions, like I said, is likes and comments. So I need to look at the number of likes per post, number of comments per post. These are sort of the post level metrics that I can think of. And when it comes to searching, the number of people, so searching is very important, because a huge part of Instagram, like you mentioned, is about discovery, right? You need to discover people, hashtags, fashion and stuff like that. So the number of people who are explicitly using explore on a given day is important. The number of photos viewed or interacted with via explore also becomes important, because that tells us about the quality of stuff that starts surfacing on explore. And the number of searches per day, this is also an important metric. Then I'd focus on the number of new relationships, be it with content or with a hashtag or with a person, that are created via explore. That's really the crux of the discovery problem, right? And then so that's the explore level metrics. The one that I've left is basically ads. And here I'd focus on the total number of ad impressions per day, CTRs on different kinds of ads, where it appears on the feed, where it appears on stories, what are the kind of CTRs that we see, and total ad revenue that I'm getting on a monthly basis, and ad revenue per monthly active user. So these are like the laundry list of metrics that you can track basis the user journey that I mentioned earlier. The final job here is to sort of whittle it down to the top 5 to 7 metrics. And there is a micro framework that I use to do that, which is basically how we did it at Crisp, where we call something the focus metric. The focus metric is the equivalent of the one metric that matters. And then we call a set of metrics as the L1 metrics, which is what are the things that could affect the or augment the focus metric. So that's how we define L1 metrics as. And then there are things that we call as L2 metrics, which is you have device OS level segmentation or geography level segmentation, or the kind of like let's say people are following fashion content versus tech content. So what is the kind of content that people consume? So once you start segmenting this data, you arrive at L2 level data. So then you have L3, which is basically in Android, people are using Instagram on OnePlus more. So this is L4 level data. So you should not go too deep in the interview question. So I recommend having a focus metric and then a set of L1 metrics. So you just end your answer with like 5 to 7 metrics. That's the best way to end it. Here, if I look at my, daily active users is obviously going to be my focus metric, because that's what Facebook reports in its earnings calls, and that's what makes sense as well. Once you have a increasing number of, so this is the metric that has to keep going to the right and the top, right? So daily active users seems like a sensible focus metric. The metrics that can sort of augment this in the list that I generated are basically time spent per user per day, the number of sessions per user per day, the number of photos posted per user per week, the number of posts engagements per user per day, and the number of searches per week, and ad revenue per monthly active user. So these are like the 7 metrics that I would track in a dashboard or something as the head of product at Instagram.
Interesting. A lot of your metrics are very usage driven, which is what you mentioned as one of the constraints that we talked about. We're not going to focus on acquisition, and we're going to focus on engagement and retention. What was interesting is lack of any high level metrics on monetization. Is that something you?
So I'm focused on one monetization metric, which is the ad revenue per MAU. That would, like, because it's a ratio, I'll be able to track it over time, and because I'm also looking at MAUs, I'll know if something is adverse is happening to ad revenue, right? And like I said, I'm giving ads a third degree treatment here, in the sense that for me, if I were the head of product at Instagram, I definitely focus more on engagement and retention than monetization, because if you focus too much on monetization at the cost of engagement or retention, in the long term, you're going to lose, right?
Cool. Good. I also had one more clarification, which is why did you select number of searches per week as a L1 metric? What are you trying to
Yeah, so basically the number of searches per week. So I think that, like you said, the direction in which Instagram is going is going to be beyond photos and videos, and being it a closed social network. It's going to be about discovery, about commerce and stuff like that. And when you look at Explore, that is the way it is going to go forward. So if you ask me 1 year or 2 years down the lane, I'd probably add two more metrics around Explore tab. For me right now, as long as the number of searches is growing, it means that my Explore tab is becoming useful for people. And within this, you will have, within the number of searches, you will have L2 metrics that would further tell you what is the kind of stuff that people are searching for. Is it for people or is it for content? And further down, it'll be like, what is the kind of content that people are searching for, which then becomes an L3 sort of metric. So number of searches is definitely a health indicator, so to speak.
Got it. And do you think we should track a metric around not just daily active users, but hourly active users? Given how...
So yes, yeah, that's a very familiar question when it comes to Instagram, WhatsApp, and the likes. So the level of granularity is really up to you. But I think that beyond a point, metrics don't sort of so the incremental value that the granularity adds doesn't matter too much. So what am I going to what is the actionable point with this hourly active user metric. That is not very clear to me. So if daily active users dip tomorrow, there is something that I can like dive deep, do an RCA, and then take some action on top of. But if hourly active users are like down 30% from the past hour, that's only going to add to my panic as a product person rather than like give me something very actionable. So I think that level of granularity may not be required. I think daily is fine.